Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point, AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. Got your catastrophic global warming update. Do you know that there are icebergs on Lake Superior today? I saw the pictures. Icebergs on Lake Superior in the middle of June. That's your catastrophic global warming update. And, you know, one of the things that these environmental radicals are always telling us about, these extremists, what they're always telling us about is that we're not going to we don't have global warming. They're finally admitting that we haven't had global warming for 17 years and 10 months. Haven't had global warming for 17 years and 10 months. What we're going to see is we're going to see climate change. We're going to see climate disruption. We're going to see an increase in extreme weather patterns. And so we're going to see more hurricanes, more tornadoes, more this and that and the other thing. And here's the reality of it. There has not been a hurricane make landfall in the United States for 3,151 days and counting. This is the longest stretch with no hurricane making landfall in the United States in the last 100 years. So we are not seeing an increase in extreme weather events. This is Professor Roger Pielke Jr. From 1900 to 2013, the United States experienced a decrease in hurricane landfalls of more than 20%, and the strength of each year's landfalling storms has also decreased by more than 20%. Even the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says, quote, no robust trends in annual numbers of tropical storms, hurricanes, and major hurricane counts have been identified over the past 100 years in the North Atlantic Basin. We are living in a lull of hurricanes, at least in the context of the past 100 years or so. So when people talk to you about, well, yeah, we're not having global warming, but we're having more extreme weather events, absolutely not true. We're in the longest stretch in 100 years between hurricanes that have made landfall in the United States. Now, if I was a little hard, I'm not saying I was a little hard on Marie Harf, but getting some feedback that maybe I was a little rough on her. If so, I apologize. Really don't mean to do that. Try to be objective here, and it just aggravated me. So, again, if you thought I was a little bit too strong, a little bit too hard on her, you've got some company out there, and I recognize that, and I respect that. Now, let's go to Ernest in Michigan. Let's grab a phone call to start this segment. Ernest in Michigan. And the number to call, by the way, 888-589-8840. Ernest, tell me what's on your mind.
Hey, Brian. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good.
Hey, I just want to say, Brian, you know, I really appreciate you, man. And not to sound harsh, but again, when you play that sound bite for John Kerry coming on saying right to be stupid, and then they did sound like California Valley Girls. I mean, you know, I'm watching this whole thing unfold, and I'm just like, you know, this nation is in trouble. I just want to say, American people, wake up. American churches, wake up. Stop talking about a secret rapture and start preparing people to, if necessary, to be mentally and physically persecuted for standing up for what's right. And I just thank God for you and your boldness and the way you come across every day. Keep up the good work, Brian. You're doing an excellent job, brother.
Well, thank you, Ernest. I appreciate that very, very much. You know, we had a caller earlier today saying, look, you look at the trend lines here, and, you know, Argentina, I had this story yesterday. Argentina has a new cabinet position, a secretary of national thought. Can you believe it? Christina Kirchner, she's the prime minister or president, whatever they call them down there, and she's appointed a secretary of national thought. I mean, this is the thought police on steroids, and I'm sure President Obama's reaction is, why didn't I think of that first? You know, where you got to conform, and we've seen that with one profession after another. Bakers, florists, photographers, broadcasters, counselors, college educators, now cops are losing their jobs. Careers are being closed off to them because they do not conform to the political orthodoxy. So, Ernest, I think you're exactly right. We got to gear it up. We have got to man up, because I think the the wind is going to be blowing more stiffly against us in the future, even than it is right now, and it is not pretty right now. Well, thank you, Ernest. I appreciate the call. Thank you for that. 888-589-8840. Let's grab a clip number 4, Rob. This is Judy Miller on with Maria Bartiromo of Fox Business News. And Maria Bartiromo is asking Judith Miller, who's a journalist, used to write for the New York Times. And so she asks her, what about these Taliban guys, these Taliban alums, these Taliban grads, and them going back to the battlefield and plotting more attacks against Americans? Here's how their exchange went.
Do they go back after a year in Qatar and come back and plan more terrorist attacks against America?
Well, I think the statistics would seem to indicate that there's a great risk that exactly that is going to happen. As of January 2014, we had 29% of the 614 Gitmo detainees who had been released who went back to the fight. So that's not very good. And many of them were taken by countries that had promised, as has Qatar, that they will look after them and make sure they don't return to the fight. So that's the problem. That's the real trade-off. Even if they don't go pick up an RPG, they are there as inspirers, as motivators, and as living proof that you can confront the great Satan and win.
And, that's what's significant to me about this is kind of the motivational elements of this. I mean, the Taliban is celebrating this. Omar, the leader of the Taliban, or Al-Qaeda, whichever, I lose track of those guys. But he's saying, look, this is a big victory. Another time he says this is a great victory. So as far as the Taliban is concerned, this was a win for them. This was a big win for them, a big victory over the great Satan. And this is how this is perceived in the Muslim world, that this was a victory for the forces of Islam against the Christian forces of the United States. This is an example of the Muslims confronting the great Satan and coming away as a winner. And Judith Miller points out, look, this is not the first rodeo. This is not the first time we've sent Guantanamo Bay detainees to a country that promised they were going to watch over them and look after them and make sure they were rehabilitated and make sure they didn't go back to the fight, and they wound up right back on the battlefield. Now, here's Dinesh D'Souza, clip number 5, and this is a pretty significant soundbite. This is a pretty significant soundbite because what Dinesh D'Souza is kind of riffing off here is the what I think we all recognize as a visceral distaste that President Obama has for the United States of America as it was founded. Dinesh D'Souza wrote a book, The Roots of Obama's Rage, and he argues, and persuasively in my mind, that he grew up with a father who indoctrinated him into the belief that the United Kingdom and that white Europeans were an oppressor race. They were colonial oppressors. They were, in essence, slavers. And so he grew up with this hatred that he inherited from his father for colonial powers, the UK and then the United States of America. Why did President Obama return the bust of Winston Churchill first chance he got? Because Winston Churchill was a colonial oppressor. He was a racist. He was part of the white oppressing race. And so that bust had to be gone. It had to be out of there. Why do you think he insulted the Queen of England by giving her a set of DVDs that won't even play on DVD players in Europe? It was an insult. Well, because he has a visceral dislike for the UK and America because he thinks that we are colonial, slaving powers, that we've had slavery in our DNA from day one. And this is why Obama said we have to fundamentally transform America, because if you've got slavery, racism in your DNA, which is what he believes, if it's in your DNA, there's nothing you can do about that. You can't purge that. You can't wash that away. There's no antibiotic for that. You just have to destroy that and start over with a completely new DNA. And that's what Obama is seeking to do right now, I believe. So here's Dinesh D'Souza talking about this, how Obama, he thinks, views the Taliban. This is a pretty striking assessment. Let's listen.
Yeah, but I don't think look, I think this is a case where we have to make a big difference here. There's a difference between incompetence and which now incompetence is sort of defined by Jimmy Carter.
Right.
So let me give an example. Jimmy Carter yanked the Persian rug out from under the Shah, and whoops, he got Khomeini. This is called, being a nincompoop, right? It's called trying to get rid of the bad guy and you get the worst guy.
Right.
But see, Carter didn't know that. Carter was a fool. Obama's not a fool. Obama has an ideology, and his ideology is that we, the United States, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then historically in Cuba and Guatemala and on, we're the bad guy. We're the imperialist power. We're the ones who are throwing our weight around the world. And if we're the bad guy, then the people fighting against us must be, from their point of view, freedom fighters. Just like if apartheid is bad, then Mandela, fighting against it, has got to be a freedom fighter.
Right.
So Obama looks at these Taliban guys. I'm not saying he likes them. I'm not saying he's a secret Muslim, no. But he looks at them as they're fighting American oppression. And Obama, can understand that. So Obama looks at it, and that's why here's Obama chuckling and chortling and so on. He had no idea that the American people, even Democrats, would see this quite differently.
So that's Dinesh D'Souza, and that's his take, and I think it's it's a pretty thought-provoking perspective for him to have, that the way President Obama looks at the Taliban, he basically looks at the Taliban as heroes. They are freedom fighters. They are taking on the white colonial oppressor, and they're standing up to them, just like the freedom fighters under Mandela. This is how he looks at them. So he says, look, from Obama's standpoint, these guys, these Taliban guys, might actually be, in his warped worldview, the good guys. And he's not the only one that thinks this way. Here's a story about a Democratic Congressman, Gerald Nadler, a Democrat from New York, who compared the Taliban to soldiers in the American Revolution. So Nadler apparently made the point that the Taliban, as non-state actors, have a status that is similar to American soldiers who fought the British during the Revolutionary War. Here is the difference. The soldiers that fought the British in the Revolutionary War were not non-state actors. They belong to the brand new, sovereign, and independent United States of America, subject to a president, a commander-in-chief, and a Congress. They were not non-state actors. They weren't guerrillas. They weren't rogues. They were serving their country in the interest of freedom. Focal Point, AFR Talk.